Hey everyone, I'm Lauren Conlon, and today I have a very special guest. I am joined by none other than criminal defense attorney Arthur Aidala, who you've definitely seen in the news on TV. If you follow high profile cases, then you know Arthur has been at the center of it all. He's been in the middle of some of the most intense cases that I have ever seen. He's also been quoted as the quote, nice guy lawyer for all of the tabloid villains. He represents clients like Ghislaine Maxwell, Harvey Weinstein, Alan Dershowitz, Anthony Weiner, and Steve Bannon, just to name a few. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to bring Arthur in right now because I'm very excited. I haven't spoken to him in a while and I have a lot of questions for him. So, Arthur, welcome.
Well, let me just tell you, Lauren Conlon, that you're actually getting a little exclusive right now because I left the courthouse just a little while ago on Steve Bannon's case. And besides having a little chat on the courthouse steps, I have yet to speak to others. I have a bunch lined up for the rest of the day, but I chose to come to you first.
Thank you so much. That's really nice. And congratulations. I saw that Steve did have to plead guilty, but he will be serving no jail time and you don't have to go to trial. So I guess that's a win, right?
Well, he was charged with a serious felony. There's no jail time. There's no probation. There's no restitution. There's no forfeiture. There's no fine. There's no community service. Basically, he just has to not get rearrested, and they don't want him running a charity in New York for the next 3 years or so. And let me just explain to you kind of why we decided to go that route. And I don't think, Lauren Conlon, you're going to be surprised to hear my analysis that it's going to be very difficult for Steve Bannon, who is so closely identified with Donald Trump, to get a fair jury pool in Manhattan. You know Manhattan pretty well. And I think everyone was excited because Donald Trump did better in Manhattan in this election. I think he went from 13% of the vote to 17% of the vote. And
Right.
the jurors come from the voter logs, so we kind of know which way they're going to go. And some a reporter blurted out, like, don't you think jurors are able to put their personal political preferences aside when they serve jury duty? I said maybe under certain circumstances, but President Trump and Steve Bannon, people have very strong feelings about, and I really truly question whether jurors could put their political feelings aside.
Right. And I guess the downfall here, I mean, in addition to everything that you just stated, is that now Steve Bannon he's once
He's
again a
done.
convicted felon, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it is very interesting because I thought that would be a real stumbling block to try to achieve a disposition here. Like I thought that would be something that a human being would be really upset about. But to be very blunt about it, we now have a president who's got 34, felony convictions, and people I think saw how the system is being used for lawfare. And my last statement to the press corps outside the building today was, why don't we make this the last lawfare case? Let's move on and let's let this building, the criminal court building of New York, serve the purpose of what it was supposed to be served for, to find justice for people who get stabbed on the subways and have their cars robbed or be robbed at gunpoint or was sexually assaulted. Why don't we focus on that as opposed to all of these lawfare kind of crimes where there's political vendettas being fought out in our criminal justice system?
Yeah, I agree with that to a degree. I mean, multiple things can be true. I want to segue, but the last thing I want to ask you about Bannon here is, I mean, his comments after he pled guilty, they were a little combative. He was calling for investigations into AG Tish James, DA Bragg, which I don't really disagree with. But I mean, is that some kind of strategic move here, or is he just trying to get the last word? What's your take on that?
I don't know the answer to that question. I kind of know how I feel about it. I mean, I would like um, the new United States Attorney or the Attorney General of the United States to maybe make a statement that she's not going to tolerate any type of these frivolous prosecutions, and that prosecutors throughout the country only be fighting crime for real crimes, not ones that they're trying to squeeze into, like President Trump's crime, which was a crime of first impression. No one had ever been charged the way he was charged before. So I would love to see a change of environment in the whole country about prosecutors, what crimes they choose to prosecute, and how they do so. And obviously, the Department of Justice just sent the big message by saying we are going to, for at least temporarily, set aside the charges against Mayor Eric Adams. We think that they're
How
too
did you
close.
know I was going to go there?
We're thinking it's too close to the election. It's hampering him. It's handcuffing him. So we're not going to allow that to happen right now. Of course, they did leave hanging over his head. We will evaluate this in November after the election to determine what we're going to do, which is kind of like, obviously, if I was advocating for Eric, yes, I'm thrilled that these charges are set aside, but
Mhm.
it seems like there's almost a threat, like, if you don't do what we want to do, we're going to reevaluate these one way as the other way. I mean, I know Eric well. I know he has the integrity and the moral fiber to do what he thinks is right, but there's also a human instinct of self-preservation to do what he thinks is going to help him in a courthouse where their conviction rate at a trial is over 90%.
Yes, that was though that was the dumbest thing I think I've ever read in my entire life about why they dropped the charges. It affects he has an inability to do his job. It's too close to the election. Who cares? I mean, I'm not disagreeing that the charges were politically motivated under the former administration, and maybe President Trump is sending this message like F everything that Joe Biden was doing, everybody that he was persecuting. I don't know. All I know is that Eric Adams, when he was running, he pandered to the liberal New Yorkers. He said over and over that we're a sanctuary city. He wants all the migrants here. And then things kind of started going in another direction, and he got some bad press due to the way he was handling the situation with the migrants. And yeah, he started kissing Trump's ass, in my opinion. And that's what's going on here. But I don't think he's a bad guy. I just don't, maybe it's just I don't love politicians and I can see right through it. And I think that what we would get if he was kicked out of office would be worse. So I'm at a point where I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. I just don't think it's necessarily sending the best message. And, people said, oh, the Biden crime family, he's so corrupt. Well, what is this then? What the hell is this?
Well, there are definitely similarities. I have no issue about President Joe Biden pardoning his son. I actually think it would have been horrible if he didn't pardon his son, because his son was really only prosecuted because he was the president's son. Very, very, very few people. Actually, I've never heard of a case where someone's got prosecuted because they checked off a box that I'm not on narcotics when during some period of time they were on narcotics. I mean, it's a pretty minor thing. The same way with Eric Adams about getting upgrades on a plane. Not when he was the mayor, when he was the borough president, is also like, it's just not crimes that they usually prosecute. That's the bottom line. And that's
Yeah.
what this whole lawfare is we're going to go outside our norms to hurt people we want to hurt. And I mean, look, kudos to President Trump, in my opinion. I'm friends with Eric Adams. I'm thrilled that this is behind him. I hope it's
I
behind
know
him.
you are. You're the first person I thought about. And I was thinking, like, I mean, I assumed that you maybe were helping with his
I
case
listen.
on this.
I put in as many good words for him with anyone. People who didn't like him, people thought he's a horrible man. I was like, okay, fine, you could have all of that. I just don't want to see my friend go into prison. And thank God, it seems like that is going to be avoided. The reelection thing, you could leave that to the politicians and ask them how this is going to play out in the next. It's not long. It's between now and June. I think it's 26th or something like that is when election day is.
Yeah. And our friend Frank Morano is running for city council. I'm so excited
Yes.
for him. Oh my
I
gosh.
am very excited for
Yeah,
him. He's going to serve this city so well. We'll be blessed to have him in office.
I agree. I agree. So Staten Island, yeah, you gotta come out for Frank Morano. But I wanna go into Harvey for a minute because his trial date is set for April. I believe it's April 15th. 2025. You guys recently tried to get the trial moved up because Harvey is apparently just like can barely walk. He's doing really, really poorly in prison. And I mean, you at this point, I'm just kind of wondering here, when you've got this case, and you did an incredible job in getting his 2020 conviction overturned, but you've got a case that's purely relying, I'm assuming, on witness testimony here, alleged victim testimony. So I guess it's like, is your defense just to, and I don't want to say this the wrong way, but is it just to simply poke holes and discredit witnesses? Because what's your goal here, I guess, at this point? Is it to send Harvey to a country club prison to live out the rest of his days? I mean, what are we doing here?
Well, in state court, no, all kidding aside, there is no country club prison. That's a
Okay.
federal court thing. So in state court, it's just, whether you're at maximum security or medium security, none of them are fun. None of them are enjoyable. We should get that out there right now. There is no good prison
Okay.
in anywhere really, but
Mhm.
some are worse than others, and the state prison is very bad. Look, Lauren, it's going to be a hard case. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. Um, as of today, there are going to be three women. We talk about three separate occurrences where, he forced himself on them. Not, I don't believe there's any rape charges anymore. It's all sexual assault charges.
No, it
Where
was, I think there is.
there's like a rape 3, which he's already done the jail time. So that
Got it.
they're
It's
just
so,
throwing that
yeah.
in there.
Oh,
But it's going to be a hard case. I'm not minimizing it. It's also not a case of mistaken identity. He's not saying, "Oh, it wasn't me." He's just saying, when all of this happened all of these years ago, like everything was fine, and look at all these emails we have afterwards, and look at what we did afterwards, and everything was fine. And now all of a sudden, years later, you're saying that it wasn't fine. It wasn't consensual. And then they're going to have some experts coming up there and say, "Oh yes, there are many women who, at the time they hide their memories, they hide it's all suppressed, and then eventually there's a trigger and it comes out, and that's why they're coming out years later." We'll see what a Manhattan jury has to say. We're going to work very hard to get the best outcome for him that we possibly can.
I mean, that's really interesting. So I mean, there are emails where these women are talking to him after
I
this.
can't wait. I can't wait for you to meet my mother. My mother is gonna love you. I love your beautiful blue eyes. You look so handsome. I think
Harvey's
you.
blue eyes, beautiful
Yeah,
blue eyes.
yeah. I don't
Okay,
even think
sorry.
they're blue. Yeah.
Whatever the hell they are. But wait, so how far does that go with a jury? I wonder. I mean, I'm thinking, if I was juror and I saw that, that's tough. I mean, I don't want to say anything that'll get me
Okay.
women
So
haters, but
here's the deal. The last time we went to trial, there were one, two, three, four, five. There were five charges. The jury found him not guilty of three of the five charges, including the most serious ones, the ones that would have given him life in prison. Annabella Sciorra. Of all these women from Hollywood who say he did X, Y, and Z, they only had one kind of class B minus celebrity, Annabella Sciorra. I'm not condoning her career, but I think if you walk through the streets of Manhattan right now and you ask people who's Annabella Sciorra, it's not exactly like she's J Lo or
mhm,
Taylor. Um,
I understand.
and they found him not guilty. There were two charges of rape against him with her, and they not guilty, not guilty. And then there was another charge with another woman who that was a rape charge, not guilty. So there was really only one person. I mean, he was found guilty of two, but one of them, the maximum prison sentence was 3 years, which he's already done. And then the other, so that's over with, really. So the only other person is the fact that there was a sexual assault, and but even in that case, there were a lot of things that supported him. And again, I'm not. Doesn't mean
Mhm.
it was a win, but the jury was out for over a week. It's not like they
Yeah.
went in and they came out and they said, "Oh, he's
Yeah.
definitely guilty." Like, they thought about a lot. So we're going to go in there and we're going to fight as hard as we can for Mr. Weinstein and for his family. He's got little kids still, and he has friends and family and supporters, and we'll see what happens. The biggest thing, Lauren, is we're in front of a much, much better judge. When I say that, he's just a
Oh,
much more fair individual than the judge at the first trial. That's why the case was reversed by the Court of Appeals. Is the judges of the Court of Appeals looked at the transcript and said Harvey Weinstein did not get a fair trial. This judge screwed up. It doesn't mean
right.
he's innocent or he's not guilty, or it just
Mhm.
means, yeah, we saw how the judge conducted the trial and it was not fair.
I just think the text and the email thing is so interesting. Wow. I mean, I wish that
Well,
I was,
there'll be experts
yeah.
explaining that all away and how, women do this all the time and it's the way of them dealing with sexual trauma. So, we'll see how we handle
Yeah.
that.
Right. That's true. Battle of the experts. Really quick. What is rape 3? I don't think I'm familiar with that.
It has to do with the fact that there's a lack of consent. Sometimes it's because of uh, it's really the no means no defense, and
Yeah.
you don't even
Okay.
really have to say no. It's like a man is supposed to understand from a woman's body language and her actions that she's not consenting, even if there's no force whatsoever.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly.
Okay.
Correct. Your reaction is an appropriate one.
No, I'm just, yeah, I'm a little confused, just a bit,
Your
but
reaction is a very appropriate one.
and I wanted to ask you this as well. The Manhattan DA's office asked the judge at one point during, the publicity surrounding this trial to have you refrain from making statements that are intended to intimidate witnesses. Did you realize that you were doing this? Did you mean to do this? Were you just kind of defending your
No,
client?
no, I didn't. I definitely didn't mean to intimidate a witness. I think the essence of my statements were if these women are going to come back to testify again, we have their prior testimony, and they'll be subject to cross examination on their prior testimony, which is a fact. I mean, I'm not making that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. But apparently, they were a little upset. The DA's office was a little upset about that. It's very difficult when you do these press cases because they say they're not going to comment, but they have all these surrogates who comment on their behalf. And we're supposed to refrain, and it's hard because you have a human being here who's facing life in prison. So it's a balance.
Yes, and there are also reports that you do some very harsh cross-examinations and you don't mean to re-victimize an alleged victim, but you are doing your job. And there were reports from the last trial that you left some women in tears. I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to be hard. I know you. You're a really nice guy. You're a nice, genuine person. You really are. So I mean, it's a tough situation.
I can't wait. Could your team just take that clip and just give it back to me? Like, so when you start,
Yes.
saying not nice things to me, I could send that
Shut
back
up.
to
I
you.
don't do that.
Oh,
God.
I apologize.
Not this
Listen,
week anyway. No.
the bottom line is, um, I was talking to someone today, Lauren, and I was a prosecutor for 4+ years in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. I'm very proud of that. It's when crime was through the roof. It was when Rudy Giuliani first came in as mayor. There were so many trials going on that I got experience I really didn't deserve because I was like one of the, I was the free guy. Like, all right, let's throw him in the courtroom. And as much pressure as there was, representing or I'm not representing the government, the people of the state of New York. And yes, there was a family of the deceased behind me or a family of a rape victim behind me, and that there was a lot of pressure there. If there was a not guilty verdict, their deceased family member was not going to come back to life. The sexual trauma that woman sustained wasn't going to disappear. So, like, the harm had already happened, and you were just trying to give them some closure. When you're on the other side of the fence, when you're on that, it's like usually the harm hasn't happened to them, or a much worse harm is about to happen to them, which is you're going to go to jail for 8 years, 12 years, your whole life. The pressure is enormous. And look, within the bounds of ethics and morals and your own values, you just have to do the best job that you can. Some of that entails getting enough sleep so that you're just not bleary eyed, because it is such an overwhelming task to take someone's life, put it in your hands, and then know the laws, know how the judge is going to act, react, when to object, when not to object, whether you call your witness as your client as a witness or you don't. It's a tremendous undertaking that people sometimes minimize, but unless you've walked in our shoes and have done it, and you have the family members around you leaning on you, and it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, and as a reminder to everybody, everybody deserves their constitutional rights, even if we think they're pieces of shit and scumbags. I'm sorry to say. And
My
I mean,
mother's watching this, Lauren, with the language.
yeah, it's fine. She's used to it.
Okay. All
No,
right.
but I speaking of pieces of shit, no, I'm just kidding. I wanna just quickly go to Ghislaine because I'm not sure. So
Oh,
she
don't
was
say that. Diana loves Ghislaine from our office.
listen.
Don't.
I mean, I love Ghislaine if she's gonna tell me the truth, no, I'm just kidding. But however, have you argued in front of the Supreme Court yet? I know she was denied by the U.S. Appeals Court, and you said you were going to go to the Supreme Court. Have you done this yet? What is going
So
on?
you have to ask. You don't just get to go. You
Right.
automatically get to go to the first level. You have to ask to go to the next level. So we have filed the notice to say we're going to be putting in the papers to go to the next level, but we haven't put in the papers to ask to go to the next level. It's a very
Okay.
difficult. I mean, I think they take now about 80 cases out of more than 10 or 12,000 cases. So it is a very heavy
Wow.
lift to get into the Supreme Court of the United States of America.
Wow. And you believe, and Ghislaine believes that, she was only prosecuted to satisfy the public outrage.
Well, think about it, Lauren. Think about it. Think about it. Just use you've been doing this show for a while. You know the industry well. Jeffrey Epstein gets arrested. There's an indictment. There's discovery. Ghislaine Maxwell's name is nowhere in any of it. Never. She's not charged as a co-conspirator. She's not charged as
Right.
acting in concert. She's not in the paperwork that she was seen here, or she did that, or she made this phone call, or she nothing. It's zero, nothing, zilch.
Yeah.
Then he's dead. Now they've spent millions of dollars, hours and hours and hundreds of hours of all people's time. Now what
Mhm.
do? You think they just walk away? All of a sudden, well, think about it, Lauren. All of these men abusing women, the only person ever prosecuted and put in jail is a woman.
I've said this, Arthur. I've said so. Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years for trafficking girls to a guy that's dead who actually wasn't convicted. I mean, it's confusing, but I feel like it's crazy that you have access to the woman that I believe has the power essentially to take down half the world. I really do. I know that Kash Patel has come out and said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to release the list. I'm going to let everybody know who was involved, blah, blah, blah." I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's ever going to happen. If it does, I'll eat my words. But I just feel like, I mean, you can't answer this, I'm sure, but do you feel, or do you get the sense that she was threatened somehow? I mean, how does this woman sit behind bars and not say anything?
I don't know her that well. I've spoken to her on the phone more times like I count. I've only been face to face with her once when I went down and visited her. She is a very strong woman. She's a very tough woman who has facing 20 years in prison, and she's been in for a hunk of it already. I've never spoken to her about any list or about anything like that, but human nature. I'm speaking for myself, not for her. I think if
Mhm.
she had the keys to the jail cell, the way you're kind of insinuating that she does, I think she would have at least raised it with us about using the keys to the jail cell.
Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. She was. Are you kidding me? She was with him for the last 2 decades. Like we're not stupid, and you're not stupid. I know you have to say that. You're her lawyer, but I don't think that's. I think that's insane. I think that if she did not see with her own eyes who was coming in and out of New York, West Palm, St. Thomas, like, come on, Arthur.
Well,
Yeah.
seeing people coming in and out is one thing. Seeing them committing a federal crime is something different.
Okay. So all of this, if you read some of the documents, which I'm sure that you have, she foisted these women upon these men. So she was a part of that. So yes, I believe that she was present for these illegal crimes.
Well, if
I
it,
mean,
then let me just ask you something. When you have prosecutors who are dying to get their names in the newspaper and get these heads on the mantelpiece, then if the evidence is so powerful, so strong about these men and the hoisted, how come no one was ever charged?
because they don't have the names. That's what I'm trying to say. Like I just don't think we're ever going to know because I believe these people run the freaking world. They are in charge of the banks. I mean, come on. That's why I'm saying we're never going to know. Kash Patel, Marsha Blackburn, sure, you can say whatever you want, but I mean, in my opinion, it's not going to happen. We're just
Okay.
now trying to declassify the JFK docs and the MLK
Listen,
docs. So,
it's your show. Your opinion is obviously what counts.
oh my God, that was like so condescending. Are you kidding?
No,
That was so,
no, it's
okay,
not
a little
condescending at all.
condescending.
It's
Okay,
not
well,
condescending. It's
let
your,
me
and
close.
listen, this is my opinion. It's your opinion. Like, okay, did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself or was he killed?
No, he was killed. He was
Okay.
absolutely killed.
Okay. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean,
Okay,
I
so
don't know.
let me
I don't
close
have
it.
an opinion on that.
Close
I've
it
never
on this.
studied it.
Do
Excuse
you
me?
think do you think Ghislaine knows what happened, or does she have an idea of what happened to Jeffrey Epstein?
I think she has an opinion, but I don't think she knows. I mean, I know she doesn't know. I know she has an opinion, but then she doesn't know.
Can you share her opinion?
I mean, I think it's pretty out there that she doesn't think that Jeffrey Epstein had the guts to kill himself. I saw him 2 days before he died. I was in the prison. It's closed down. The
Yeah.
the Manhattan Correctional Center. I think it was called the Metropolitan Correctional Center, not the MDC, but the MCC.
Hmm.
And he actually looked good, and he was in there with a couple of paralegals. But he had just lost either his second or third attempted bail. And I think he was smart enough to know, based on public knowledge and public reports, that he probably was going to die in prison. And he had already done 18 months on and off in prison in Florida when he took the first plea. And this is a guy who lived a hedonistic life, had anything he wanted whenever he wanted, had no real family, no wife, no kids. I think he had a brother he was estranged from. So my only point is, unlike Harvey, who does have some strong, very strong family connections, lives for his children, and I think that's probably the only thing keeping him alive. Jeffrey Epstein didn't have that, so it's not so far fetched that he's going to be like, "I'm going to die in the MDC. Like this is how my life is going to end." No, 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 no. I'm used to having what I want when I want on my private jet, on my private island, filet mignon, caviar, champagne. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't, as I said,
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion. I never went through the logs, who was there, who checked the books, who made sure. I mean, you know who paid the price for his suicide? Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine.
When she was incarcerated, I mean, they absolutely abused her. There is no doubt about it that if you heard the way she was treated, even if you thought she was 100% guilty,
Yeah.
you would say that is so un-American to treat another human being that way.
I thought she was at a, this was, I guess, before then, because now she's at a low security Tallahassee prison, right?
Right, that's
Yeah.
correct. Yes, she's
Okay.
everyone says MDC, like where your friend Luigi is now, where your friend Sean Combs is now, where the Alexander brothers are now. You know, that's the worst part. Like in the state system, being in Rikers, where Harvey is right now, that's the
Harvey,
worst part.
that's way worse. Are you kidding? I mean, I have not experienced these prisons or jails,
Thank
but
God.
I'm thinking that, or from what I've read and heard from people that work there, that Rikers is 10 times worse than MDC. MDC is like a hotel compared to Rikers. And the other thing I was thinking, just wondering about Harvey, I was like, why you couldn't work out some kind of deal? Because I feel like I've heard all these things where prisoners at Rikers just take deals so they can get out of there because they're just so desperate. It's such a hellhole.
I don't think I couldn't agree with you more. Do you think that Alvin Bragg is going to give Harvey Weinstein a deal?
You're right. No, not even close. Not even close. You're so right. And the last thing, there was one more thing I wanted to ask you about Epstein, but now I kind of forget. I totally forget. Okay, so really quickly, just because I dug into some of your past cases, and one of them I just wanted to bring up that is so crazy, and you did it pro bono. You represented this woman back in 2009.
Love
I'm going to
her.
say Bridget Harris. Yes.
Love her. Love
Oh
her.
my gosh, this case is wild, you guys. Bridget Harris killed her father and cut
Okay.
off his penis.
Look,
Sorry,
I know,
but
I know this is your show, and so I'm not telling you what to do. But
please,
can I give you my Can I give you my preference?
please, sorry.
Can we find another time and do like? No, I'm serious. And do like 15 or 20 minutes on Bridget Harris
On
'cause it's
Bridget,
fascinating.
yes,
It's a
that
fascinating
is fine.
story,
Okay, but I just wanted to ask
and
you,
it's what I'm so proud of.
you should be. So he got this woman that I just mentioned. What was it? second-degree manslaughter out in 3 years because her defense was true that her father sexually abused her. She cut off his thing. She threw it somewhere in Queens. I don't know.
You're
Whatever.
giving the whole story up. I wanted to do the whole story.
I just want to know, when's the last time you talked to her? Because I mean, there's a couple profiles on her.
Yeah, in 2024. I mean, I don't exactly remember when. I mean, she's running a little food company, dealing with food that she makes herself. It's food based out of where she's from in Liberia, and I think she's got one of those trucks. So yeah, I helped her in a lot of ways, kind of set that up, and I did so proudly. That case and Billy Rapetti, the crane that fell in New York City and killed 7 people, and I got him fully acquitted. Those are the 2 cases. Those people are not household names, but those are the ones that I'm the most proud of.
Oh, I want to make Bridget Harris a household name. I was like, oh my gosh, how do I not know about this case? I was shocked. Oh, I remembered what I was going to ask you about Jeffrey Epstein. I'm fascinated by his story about, I mean, going from a teacher at Dalton to owning this $50 million townhouse. Do you think he was Mossad? Is there anything that you can, I guess, attest to that was going on between Ghislaine's late father and Jeffrey Epstein with that? No?
No, I just know that everyone questions, where did Jeffrey Epstein get all his money from? No one really seems to know how he made the fortune that he seemed to have, and private planes and islands and all that stuff, and obviously the townhouse. So we're not sure.
No, we're not sure. Well, okay, Arthur, I've taken up enough of your time. I know you've had a really big day, and
The pleasure's all
congratulations.
mine. You got the
What's that?
exclusive. I said I appreciate your time. I said, and you got the exclusive today.
I did. Thank you so much. Everybody, I'll put all of Arthur's socials in the episode notes, his law firm information, and also the information on his radio show that he does every night at 6 p.m. called the Arthur Aidala Power Hour, which you can also get all over podcast apps. Arthur, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you soon, okay?
Thank you. I'll see you next time.
Bye.